Sorry about that, folks. You guys got to ask me, did you turn on the recording? So that's okay. It was simple stuff and I can add it in later. I'm going to go back really, really quick. You're going to open this drawing and take a snip and you're going to add right here, 3-part spec. And you're either going to add it into here using the DWF, or you're going to take a picture and write in it here, or you're going to draw an arrow to it and write on it. But manufacturers such as Geldwellen want you to use their product, and they would love you to put their spec on that drawing. And they would especially like you to do that if it's called sole source. If in their spec that they gave you, it says no substitution, and they've left off the very important terms or equal. And you can imagine why they want to do that, right? If you've made a design and you hand it to a contractor and the contractor says, well, which spec? Oh, this Geldwellen spec? Yeah, I'm familiar with them. And then he reads it and it says no substitutions. He cannot buy anybody else's door. He's stuck no matter what. Even if he knows that there are better doors or doors that are more available, or he just finished a job and he had 3 extra doors and he wants to use them and give you a break on the price. There's lots of reasons to use something that's not in the spec, unless what's in the spec really is important and they're the only people that do that. Now, can anybody think of something on a door that might be the case? Some company makes doors and they're so special that nobody else can use it. Well, I can think of some. There are doors that have, they call them germicidal spray equipment in them. They're for going in and out of certain hospital areas. So that's probably a pretty important part of the spec. And it's going to be, no, I don't want you to find somebody else who makes germicidal sprays from, or who's never done it before but wants the job. And no, these are the ones we want. They're proven they work. That's it. So that would be an example. Another example might be that it's got a special coating on it. Like there is now a company in Sacramento that makes a solar panel coating for windows. So you buy a window and they glaze it and they coat it so that when the sun is striking it, it's actually acting as a solar panel. Well, that's a pretty cool thing on a window, and there's probably not too many companies, and you can say, no, they came and they proved it to me and they did this and they did that. They're sole source, no substitution. That is the window I want. Tesla went through that with their solar roof. You can't just spec any old roof. It's got to be a Tesla roof because they're the only ones that the solar tiles on the roof match with the solar batteries that they put in their wall that match with the solar system. So you're buying a system. So that has to be sole source. There are reasons for sole source. But oh boy, every manufacturer puts in no substitution. And for a regular old door that you put on the outside of an office building or a house, are you telling me that you couldn't find 10 manufacturers within 50 miles for that? You're going to see them all. Okay, so we want to be very careful about that, and that's often found in part 2. So let's take a look at one of these from Gerald Wellen and see if we see that. And I'll just take the first one, authentic wood exterior doors. So here's and my apologies, I don't have Word on here, but and I know that that's going to come up in section 2. Acceptable manufacturer. So this is part of number 2. Acceptable manufacturer, Gerald Wellen. Well, that's cool. That's good. That specifies that they're acceptable, and it gives them the ordering address. No substitutions permitted. Well, let's go down and look at this thing and see. And I'm going to ask for Nick's opinion on this at the end. Has he ever seen these doors by somebody else? So let's take a look. Oh, they will request them within the provisions of this other document. So you can go to this other document and, hold on a sec. It's not up here. There we go. There we go. Now I got it in the right place. So it's on section 2. Acceptable is good. Here's where you find it. Nothing permitted. Nothing permitted. Bummer. So let's see. 1 1/8 raised single panel. Anybody can make that. Some options. Anybody can do that. Well, this is some code they've put in. So you can go look and see, but I bet you everybody meets that. There's nothing special there. That's just their premium French material number. Craftsman shelf. It's got a shelf, flat pan. I'm not seeing anything special there. Side lights. I'm not seeing anything special here. You can go and look at what they say, but they're just little windows. Thickness. As selected by the architect. Okay. Nothing special there. Panel and glass. Nothing special there. Squared top. No hardware. So it says hardware none. If you do, it should have this stuff. That's just the regular stuff you put on a door. As selected by the architect, so that can't be special. Pre-hung systems. Everybody makes pre-hung doors and jam. So I'm not seeing anything flashing. It's just per spec. I saw nothing there. I saw 0 that made Gerald Wellen stand out, that would make me think that they're the only people that can do this. Now, I'm picking on these guys because they're so open with their specs. They're so easy to find. They're so easy to get. Everybody does this. So when you do put in a spec, you get to actually cross that out. You just don't include it. You take their spec and you say thank you, and you erase that. And you can replace it with or equal, but in any case, they're probably going to have to make a submittal. Current product literature, including installation. So look, the architect is going to see this stuff anyway. And look, they're going to have to provide a sample door to look at. So you're okay. Designed it. So you could just bang, get rid of that. That's the emphasis of this next section in the portfolio. So let's see what it says. What are you going to do? And it's actually gelled when, not gelled well, and it's gelled when. So I can change that. So you're going to choose one, and then you're going to look at that product. You're going to click on it, and you're going to find it, and you're going to open up the online web product web sheet. You're going to look at that, and then you're going to do a little research to see if you can find any other company that makes a door that kind of looks like that. And then you're going to make yourself a little note, and you'll go, there's nothing that looks like this. This is so special. It's special. Or you're going to go, there's plenty of other good doors. So Nick, right off the bat, door with side lights. How many? Who does Home Depot use? Anderson, Gerald Wen, Pacific. Who do you guys use? And so Nick is going to type his answer out a little bit, but there's a bunch of manufacturers, and there's a big manufacturer. It's not showing on my screen. Oh no, I'm just looking at this. Yeah, I did in general. Anderson, Gildwen, Masonite. Yeah, there's tons of them. For whatever you happen to pick. And they all kind of have the same options, right? He's saying, yeah, you can find Anderson, Gildwen, Masonite. I think Pacific is another one. So you're gonna at Home Depot there's not a lot more, but that's cool. But this is up to you. This is your research. You get online and look around and make yourself a note. Is it, man, there's nothing else like this. There should be sole source, because that's the only place I can find this cool door I want. Or, nah, contractor can find one. Now, maybe there's a performance feature. This thing has a 10-year fire rating. It'd take a fusion reactor to get through this thing. Okay? Maybe it's got some performance feature that no door has. Okay? Maybe it's impervious to being to be breaking an entry. It's got some special fancy lock that scans people, and if they get too close, it's like in RoboCop, and a little thing comes out and punches them and knocks them out. Right? So, or maybe it's like a door in Raiders of the Lost Ark where, something bad happens to you when you open the door. But if there's nothing special about that door, you have to say, no, sole source is not a requirement. And this again is you. You're looking around. This takes checking on the internet. Look for doors. Or you say, I've got a friend who gets a cut every time they use Gildwen, and if I make sure I spec it in, I'll get a cut. And if you actually write that down, you get a 0 on this unit, and you get referred to the Office of Student Conduct for being a dishonest bribe taker. So don't put that one on there. Put down, no, I want to avoid all conflicts of interest. And this really is a difficulty, because often designers know, are related to, have worked for, or even still do work for in a consulting capacity people that are trying to sell them goods or getting them to specify things that you're responsible for, and you have more than a professional relationship with this person or this group. That's a real difficult situation. The first thing you do is you notify your HR department and things like that. So, as an example, okay, my son goes to American River College, and just because of what he's taking and what I teach, he's had to take 3 classes from me. Now, that's a serious conflict of interest. Okay? That's a serious conflict of interest. So I reported it, and we went through it, and we found out that there was no other way for him to get credit for these classes because I'm the only instructor. So they said, okay. But they asked another one of our faculty in our department to review the work that was submitted, not to give it a grade or anything, but to ensure that there was no obvious conflict of interest. So that's good. Yes, he did pass the class. Fortunately, he's taking his last class right now, and he will be graduating from our department this fall. So that's kind of cool. And he's switching majors. So he started doing this when he was 16. And it was really cool then. And he's found other interests in what he does. He's very talented and very skilled, but doesn't want to do this for the rest of his life. So, and that's cool. He's found other cool things to do. So this conflict of interest thing is a really big deal. And you can look around through the news and find conflict of interest right and left. And it is a problem. And professionally, as engineers and designers, we do everything that we can to avoid conflict of interest. And when one is avoidable or is a little bit shaky, then you make as many people aware of it as possible so that it's just not an issue. Okay? And you recuse yourself from certain things if you need to. So that's why I put this one in here. So you want to, and you would especially, there's nothing wrong with saying that they're an approved product. That is not a conflict of interest because you're not singling them out. But if you were to go, but they're the only ones we're going to use, that would be a problem. If you had a relationship in any professional, personal, in any way that you would call that out. Okay. And it did, by the way, it was difficult for him because I made sure that I didn't hire him either as an embedded tutor. So that's always interesting stuff. All right. So now, if you find, you're supposed to find other ones that work just as well. If you do, you put a link and a picture of those in your portfolio. Okay. And you would say, this should not be sole source because there are plenty of other doors that look just as good, and there are plenty of other doors that work just as well. And here are 2 options. Cool. And that's what's going to go in your portfolio. Any questions on that? Particularly conflict of interest. Okay, so let's take a look now at portfolio template. So we're on 3.1 and 3.2. And let me zoom in. Up, 3.2.1. So here's where you're going to go. You're going to post, I'm going to do it for you as an example. How's that? So I'm going to do this very, very simple one of, there it is. I've got it. Control C, Control V. This is how simple it can be. I'm going to give myself a little bit of room on the side. That looks pretty cool there. And I'm going to say, and I'm going to use my cool tool. There's my 3D visual. I'll move it up so it doesn't look quite so bad. And then I need 3 spec numbers. So I can zoom in and try to write the spec numbers there. Or I can just make a little shape there. And I can play with it. Three-part spec. And then I would give the number. Let's take a look. What was that number again? There it is right there. There's the spec number. I like paste without for. I thought I caught it. May not let me because I'm not allowed to. There we go. Let's see if that let me do it. Looks like my internet is crashing again. But that's where you'll put it, right there. That's not good. Google Chrome not responding. I don't want to take that whole one out. There we go. There. There we go. And you can just put that right in there, and you could do the same thing down here. Right? And what does that do? Oh, I see. It wiped out all of this. We'll get it all back. There we go. So that's how simple that one is. Once you've found a spec. Okay, so I'm going to take that off because that's the template. That's your job to do. Now, when we come down to the next part, this is just what I talked about, but you're gonna erase. Okay, you're gonna take a Geldwen spec, write the number of it, write your little thing, and you're going to put images down here. So let's see. What is this particular one? Authentic wood exterior doors. So just go look at the products. Doors, exterior. There. There's one of them. So it's these things. The spec covers all of these. Now, if you were to say that's the picture I want it to look like that, you could include that picture in your spec. But none of these doors are particularly impossible to build by anybody else. Maybe easiest to get them from these guys, but not impossible. Okay? So when I talk about the spec numbers on the pages, I'm talking about be sure that this part here stays there. And then a part that explains what you're doing and why the person is seeing it should be there too. So this is sort of explaining what your picture is about you're going to put there. I'd leave that there. This is not explaining why it's there. It's the actual thing to do. This is explaining what it's about. So you would probably want to leave that there. Okay. But this part would get replaced by your work. Now I'm going to let you know if you just do something like look it up and should this be a sole source requirement? Let's see. See what I'm doing there? I'm just answering, putting down what that's a zero. That is not showing me that you understand the material that you're trying to demonstrate on this page. Cool. Does that help a little bit too? Okay, so this one's pretty straightforward, I think, I hope. Door and window schedules, it's really all about that. Show it. Oh, let me show you. If you want to do DWF, I have a DWF program. Let me find it. It's called Autodesk Design Review. You've been in it before. You could do it through the web, but my internet is pretty weak right now, so I'm just going to do it on my my laptop one. And let me open it up, and I'll show that you can do this here too. But now I have to go find it. This is 3. Oh darn it! I haven't downloaded it yet. Um, there we go. So this is just in case. This is not required. What I've shown you already so far is what's required. So I'm going to open that up with my DWF program. And you can see it lets me do lots of cool things. I can put stamps, I can put symbols, I can measure things. We've done a little bit of work with this already. But now I'm gonna zoom in over here, and I'm gonna write probably in smaller letters here. Oop. I need my writing tool. Mark up and measure. Come on. Why isn't my marker? Oh, there it is. I'm in the wrong spot. And I probably want it there. And what was it? It was 08.40, I don't know, 07.47.000. Something like that. And I can put that right there. And then I could copy it. And I think I can paste it. And then I would, for my work, draw a scribble around it and say something like specs. I added specs here. And that would let somebody know what you did. And then you could take a picture of that and put it in your portfolio. But that is only if you want to learn a new program and become comfortable with a new program. This is a powerful one. It's not used a lot in industry anymore. It's been replaced by other Autodesk products that work exactly like this but are more complex. So this is a good starting point. Okay? So, there we go. Da-dum-bum-bum. Do you guys have any questions? Oh, I wanted to preview the timed assessment tests. We did this the other time. You can just go right to them and you can try them. They're pretty straightforward. They're 1 point for each question. If it's a square box, it means you can check more than one. Okay, and just do the best you can with them. You can take them multiple times. Okay, you can take these as many times as you want till you get it right. And so you should be well set to do the site work and the foundation one for sure. And they're not due yet. They're not due till the end of the semester, but you can do them. And you could do the same thing with foundation and flooring. Things like, what is concrete? How is it, in what direction is it strong? What are typical parts of a floor system? What does ICC stand for? So you can look at those also. Okay, and the last thing again is that I'm going to encourage you to come to the webinar on Tuesday at 9 o'clock. It'll be on this Google Meet URL, Tuesday at 9 o'clock. You can invite other people that might be interested. It's our first webinar on Fair Housing Act, and it's about the history behind the Fair Housing Act and why enforcement might be necessary. I'm going to give you a real quick example, is that at the same time we did the Fair Housing Act, we did the Clean Water Act and the Clean Air Act. And there was actually in the building code, the energy code. So our building code in California, about the same time in the early 70s, got a strengthening of the energy code for environmental considerations. And they were pretty good. And architects jumped on board and they started doing it. And contractors would always low bid to get the job and then start going, it's going to be too expensive. And they put this terrible onus on the architects to go, well, it was way under bid. And so either I have to go to court with this person, or I have to accept what they're doing, or it was very, very difficult. And so many times they just said, well, there's no enforcement and it's still safe, go ahead. And so for years, the architects were, some of the contractors were going, wait. If we had bid that bad, we would have got the job and we would have won. So it wasn't just the architects that were pissed off. It was the consultants and the environmentalists. And so in the 2000s, we had a very interesting governor who, when he became governor, I would have never thought that he would jump on this idea and make it. But there were efforts to put enforcement into those items and say, okay, if it's not done, the state is going to get involved and they're going to fine you or keep you from occupying or take your license away. They have all these enforcement things. And what did that become? It became Cal Green. And of all the people, that governor was Arnold Schwarzenegger. He is the reason. He fought incredibly hard for that. And it was not an easy go. And so I'll be back. He kept saying that, and we got it. Okay? It wasn't until there was enforcement that people started to do the right thing in our environmental construction, to really do it on a large scale basis. So I am suggesting to you that the same thing happened and is still happening with the Fair Housing Act. The Fair Housing Act was specifically to combat racism, blatant, obvious. There's no way you could call it anything else. Racism in our housing industry. Who could live where, who could buy where, who could do things where. And so we have a Fair Housing Act. And the purpose of this series of webinars, there's going to be 4 of them, is to investigate that and become knowledgeable about it. Because that is the industry we're in. Okay? And it's important that you have knowledge and understand. So Tuesday at 9 o'clock on this Google Meet, I'll put an announcement out. You can invite other people who you might think are interested. And that will essentially be one of the things you can do. And this can be part of your research for Unit 6, 7, and 8. Unit 6, 7, and 8 give you the option. There's a research portion, and you can use this topic as your construction topic research. Okay? So there we go. Any questions before I log off? Okay. Yeah. Right. So what you should try to do, and so um there's a few ways to go about it. You really want it as consistent as you can, but you can see here I go from large to a little bit less, and you can even go one size less there, right? So I'm at 14. I think that's a little big from what I'm using on all of them. Are they all? Yeah, those are all 14s. If you do decide to change this like to a 12, go back and change it to 12 all the way, right? So that like this thing here is always the same size. The next part is always the same size. The next part is always the same size. And so as you indent, it's really common to get smaller and smaller and smaller. But once you make a change, like if you made a change to this, you'd have to go back and do it all the way. And if you make a change to this, you'd go back and do it all the way. And if it doesn't make a bit, like if you go from 10 to 9, that's not a huge difference, right? You probably won't see that too much. But yeah, there's going back and editing all the time, you know? It's tough. And so the other thing you do is sometimes I go back, okay, do I need some jargon and abbreviate? Is there a better way for me to put this across? Can I do something with this and change it? What some people do is they'll go like this, get rid of some lines, and they'll put their image right over here. So that's okay to do if you need to do that too. Because like this wouldn't be so bad if it didn't slop all the way across over to here and I had room to put my image in, right? So if that's the case, you can do something like that and get your image set in a cleaner spot. Does that make sense? Did that answer appropriately? Cool. Any Yeah, consistency. Yes, consistency. At least through, let's see where research starts. Research. So here, starting in 6, you can change it up a little bit because they're a little bit different structure in here. Okay. Cool. Any other good questions? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop the video. I'll post it